Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, it's the man they call Dave from the Working Fans Podcast. And today we have a wrestler who's been doing this for about 17 years. Might have recently seen him on AEW Dark. He is the owner-operator of Magnum Wrestling. And he's here to tell us today about his story, Jaysin Strife. Jaysin, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nah, no problem, man. So 17 years. So what was okay, you've been doing it for a while. You're a fan, obviously. I imagine when you were growing up, like, who were you? Who were you into at that time?
Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels.
Oh man, that's great. For me personally, I grew up like I'm on a Hogan like Warrior, but when I got away from I always tell people I started to get bored, and I still wanted to watch wrestling. It was like Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I started gravitating to those guys.
Yep, yeah. Once it always seems like when you're younger, it's the colorful people, Hogan, Warrior, Bushwhackers, things like that. I mean, even before it was really, Perfect and Michaels, I was a Jake the Snake fan. So and just those weird things. But as you get older, and especially when you start understanding wrestling, you understand that Perfect and Michaels and Roberts and guys like that is really where it's at. So absolutely. I will die on the hill of Michaels being better than Bret.
That's all right, man. That's a debate amongst this podcast, but it's always the top two.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. When you get older and you get deeper into this and love this, for me, as I got older and deeper into it personally as a fan, Terry Funk became one of my guys. All of a sudden, I was wow, the interviews, the stuff he did, it was wow, this guy's unbelievable. But didn't appreciate that as a child.
No, oh god, oh no, not at all, not at all. I love the Freebirds now.
Right.
That was fantastic. So I love watching Michael Hayes. Cracks me up.
So that's your background. You're a big fan, and now, so when do you decide in your life you're going to break into this, and how does that come about?
It actually was a fluke. I had no interest in being a wrestler. I was going to be a stuntman.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to role models or anything else, Jackie Chan's my guy. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah, I've got them all over the place. My living room's covered in Jackie Chan posters, and that's what I wanted to do. And the school that I picked out to go to out in Seattle, you had to be 20 to get into. And so, we had a local wrestling place, and I didn't really go to shows or anything like that, but I knew there was a school there. When I was 16, I tried to get my parents to let me sign up for it, and they wouldn't do it. I look back and imagine how different my life and wrestling career would be if they would have let me get in when I was 16. Probably would have been way better, but I came in a really weird time. So I was like, okay, well, I had actually gone to a show for it was a memorial show for a local guy that had went down to Harley races to train, and died unexpectedly of a brain aneurysm. He's like 18, 19 years old. And I was like an assistant manager at a Foot Locker or something at the time. And so we went to that show that Saturday night. And then I found out there was one the next day in like this little piddly town for like a fair or something. And I was like, well, I got to work, but I hate my job. So I went into my job and was like, oh, I'm sick. I'm going home. And so we left, went to the show, helped him set up. And then, the guy there that was like, like the guy from Omaha, Hype Gotti, was like, I've seen you at the school a couple times. I'm like, yeah. I've been trying to train my parents. Well, let me. He's like, I just turned 18. Like, maybe now I've got some time to kill. And so he was like, come down to the school on Tuesday. He's like, I'll train you myself. I was like, all right. I'm not going to say no to that. Locally, he had a name behind him. And so like I learned all my in-ring stuff from him. Well, not all of it. I got my start with my in-ring stuff from him. And then another guy in town who had a falling out with that company. I actually ended up working at his dad's t-shirt shop. And there he trained me on all my psychology stuff. So we would just talk wrestling psychology for like 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week. I never implemented it until like later on in my career, but it definitely had a huge influence on like how I work now. So, and it was kind of like the rest is history. Age 20 rolled around, and I was going to go to stunt school, and I had basically just kind of like put so much into wrestling and had bills I needed to pay. I was like, well, I can't afford this, so I'm doing good here. I'll just keep doing it.
Hmm.
And that was it.
Wow. Interesting. So one of my other questions was going to be, I'll ask it now though, because you kind of answered it. What are some of your other interests? And so obviously being a stuntman was an interest. Martial arts too then?
Yep.
Or?
I'm a black belt in Taekwondo.
Okay.
I'm actually undefeated in amateur mixed martial arts. But I've only fought once.
Okay. Okay.
Just going out on top.
Hey, Jake Hager could say it. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much of a choice. Like medically, I'll probably never be able to do MMA again. So, which is obviously weird now because I wrestle. My doctors are baffled by it, but so yeah, in MMA, I trained a little bit in like jujitsu. I'm actually really big into like tumbling and gymnastics.
Hmm.
I don't wrestle like that because I'm old now and I hurt. So, but I'm actually about to start that back up again. So who knows? That might change. But I've put on like 38 pounds. So my body's a little unhappy with me right now. So trying to move that around, that'll be something new. But I always joke around with my tumbling instructor because I always used to show him Davey Richards. Davey Richards could do shooting star. So I was like, all right, if Davey can do it, I can do it. So, but yeah, I'm a big movie guy. I play a lot of video games.
Yeah.
So like wrestling's my job. Like,
Mhm.
that's it. That's all I do.
Right.
So I have a lot of downtime.
Yeah, you ended. So how did you end up on AEW Dark? Was that just looking for local or?
Yeah, kind of. Actually, Minneapolis is like 6 hours for me.
Okay.
But I kind of just called in some favors. I call in those favors to basically get on the radar, so that when they come back in our area. So crossing my fingers, I've got a WWE deal lined up when they come around here too. So hopefully, I got an in there too, thankfully. So
Yeah.
perks of being around for this long, I guess.
All right. Yeah, I saw one of the things I noticed in looking up some of your info that you were an IWA Mid-South light heavyweight champ.
Yeah.
That promotion was like, if people don't know, listen, like if you've seen those old tapes of like Eddie Guerrero when he was on his hiatus from WWE with Rey Mysterio and CM Punk, it's like IWA Mid-South. Did you realize how big that promotion was back in the day? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. IWA was a huge goal for me when I was younger. Yeah, it was a huge goal for me when I was younger. Took me a couple years to get into it. I kind of weaseled my way in when they were running shows in conjunction with NWA No Limits in Muscatine, Iowa. And then from there, I just kind of started showing up, and Ian started putting me on, and started getting over, and it just kind of worked from there. I had a hell of a feud with Dingo out there. probably some of my favorite matches I've ever had. I've always wanted to be in the TPI. Like that was like a big thing for me. And so when it rolled around like 2008, and I was like, man, I'm going to get it. Like, I've been here forever. I'm going to get in TPI. And then I found out I'm not in TPI. But then I find out our angle is main eventing night one of TPI. I was like, okay, I'll take that for now. So, but from the sounds of it, I don't think he's doing TPI anymore. So I think that's out the window for crossing that off my wrestling bucket list. So
I saw too. You had wrestled in a name. I don't know if this I always think of Brian Pillman, but I don't know if this is the name, the Yellow Dog.
yeah.
Okay.
Ian, I don't want to say saddled me with that because it was still part of the angle we were doing. But I've just kind of run with it since then. I think I started doing that it was either late 2008 or early 2009. And so now when I do it, I'm the charismatic canine Yellow Dog. And I do that. I do that kind of all over the place. Pretty notably, it's first wrestling for Eric Hannon in Minneapolis. I do it up there. I do it pretty frequently for Sammy Callahan's Wrestling Revolver in Des Moines. So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. Yes, I can do it all. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's definitely easier on my body. I actually wrestled for Impact out in Vegas doing that. I just had a shit of a tryout match. Can I swear? My bad. Okay. Yeah, I had just a steaming pile of shit of a tryout match out there, and I was so pissed off. I even during the actual tryout, I stood out. I was the guy that they were. Oh, yeah, that guy. I was the only one that showed up looking like something different. So then we go to the tapings the next day and have the tryout deal, and I'm like, you just blew it. I will say it's no fault of my own. I'll still stand by that, but whatever.
It's interesting to just talking to you. Some of your connections. I feel like you must be a good salesman, though, because like you said, I got a friend here, and you're able to kind of right.
I've been in sales all my life. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, you were a Foot Locker for a while too. Even that is probably a sales position. So.
Yeah. I've done everything from. I was a headhunter for a staffing company. I sold cell phones. If you can sell it, I've sold it, except for cars. I hated the schedule, so I never sold cars. I'm a big car guy too, which just seemed fitting, but I never did it. So,
yeah, so a lot of hobbies too. So definitely,
I've got so many irons in the fire. I can't stay focused.
That's supposed to be good though. Creative people, I think, are supposed to have a lot of that.
I just blame it on ADHD.
Yeah, same. I was undiagnosed, but I can tell the older. Now, what made probably the ADD, but what made you want to be a promoter? What got you to that?
Oh man, that's a story in and of itself. I just thought local wrestling in our area was absolute fucking garbage. I was very frustrated with the one or two local companies that were running here. I had a falling out with the guys that I was working for, and because they just wouldn't do better. I'm a big proponent, a big believer of leaving wrestling better than how you found it, and so they were so set in their ways and stubborn they wouldn't do anything new and different. So I was like, all right, well, I just finished college with my business degree. I'll give it a run. And so, my big thing was the number one thing. It was I just got to find a venue that'll serve booze. I didn't want to run a show for wrestling fans. I just wanted people to show up, get drunk, and have a good time.
Right.
So I found a venue. I had my ring custom built for that venue because the ceiling was only 9 feet tall. So we had a ring floor that was 10 inches off the ground. It was one of the stiffest rings to bump in ever. But we did it. We made it work. And we built up out of there. And now we're, I'm not tooting my own horn when I say this, but now we're the best wrestling company running in the Omaha metro area. We draw the biggest crowds. We've got the best production. guys that'll work both companies, when you come see them at my show, it's like you're watching a completely different person. There's just a level of being like, I have to be better here.
Hmm.
And I don't like people skating by. That's not how I operate. So, and plus, since I've been around long enough and, I've got a bit more respect behind me when guys come to me and they understand that. So it works out well. Well, that's usually how most companies get started. Somebody gets pissed off at somebody else and they do it themselves. But that's how most fail because most people don't plan accordingly. So,
Right. That's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I what you were saying too about doing better. I actually just saw something today. I think it was like The Rock on Instagram. Wasn't it? No, it was Chris Van Fleet. That guy. He put this clip, but it's
Mhm.
basically The Rock was saying why did you get into asking why did you get into movies? And he's like, well, I was lucky enough to have early success in wrestling, and people in wrestling were telling me, you probably won't succeed at this. This never works. And he said you have to kind of block that out and just know you want to do better and keep working hard. And that seems to be a trend with all successful people, right? You're not settling for that mediocrity or
Nope.
yeah.
Yeah, everybody. I always get people that are like my my guys on my roster get mad at me because they're like, "Oh, we had a great show, blah 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 blah. Fans loved it. Fans are commenting, yeah, we love it. It's great, blah blah blah." And here I am in our private page, and I'm like, "Yeah, guys, I didn't like it." Like they get mad at me. Like, "Why can't you just be satisfied?" Because I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied till every show's sold out
Hmm.
in just pre-sales. Like, and then the show has to deliver. And we have all of our stuff on IWTV. So like I tell people, it's like you're gonna get seen. If you compare our level of production and what we put into our shows to a lot of stuff on IWTV, like I don't want to bash anybody, but like
Right.
shit just looks lazy. That doesn't fly with me. So
Now I'm sure it's asked this once in a while, because you've been around for 17 years. Have you ever, you don't have to name names, but have you ever had someone try to take advantage of you in the ring? I mean, obviously you have martial arts trained stuff too, so I imagine you can handle it yourself, but
when I was younger, there was an incident, probably semi-deserved. But outside of that, no, not really. I've had a couple times where I've had to fire back on some people, but I've personally never had issues. We're actually, do you remember like the old, I don't even know if it's still around, that YouTube guys, like the world famous flea market or whatever, where they would watch stuff and review it and then do their own commentary over it.
okay, yeah.
So we had Tony Kozina up, and he got butthurt about the promo that the kid he was wrestling cut. Like he got mad because like the kid called him old. Fuck, dude, like you are old. You were like 40 something when I had you here. Like when it comes to wrestling, you're old, He got mad about it and started shooting on him in the ring, was like legit, like would like put him in a chokehold and try to get him almost unconscious. And then he was fucking with him. I was pretty pissed about it. And that's sad because I had a ton of respect for Kozina because I was about 6 months in. I got to wrestle Kozina, and he taught me so much. So I was like so happy to have him around. And then it was terrible. I've never been. I'm still pretty bitter about that whole thing, but whatever. He's not around anymore, so
It is interesting the dynamic of certain people with other people sometimes. How certain people, right? You can have a good Tony Schiavone always talks about how he really liked Ole Anderson, was good friends with Ole Anderson. But then you hear most people are like, "Oh, I fucking hated Ole Anderson" or whatever. So
that's me.
really good thing with this guy, but yeah, a lot of people. Oh, you have that.
Yeah, people don't like me because I'm honest. Like I'm brutally honest. I'll tell you how it is. Like I've got young guys that are like, "Oh, can I get advice on my match?" And they're like, I don't sugarcoat it. I'll tell you what you did good, but I will very much tell you what you did bad. And that's why my students are at the level that they're at so early on, because I don't sugarcoat it. I will lay into them about what they need to fix. And yeah, I get the bad rap. Well, he's just an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe you should not settle for mediocrity and quit pumping your boys up when they suck because you don't want to hurt their feelings. It blows my mind. There's a central area in Iowa where that is happening way too much. And yeah, I'm like the devil when I'm around any of those people.
Oh my
They
goodness.
don't even want to say hi to me. I'm like, not an asshole until you make me be an asshole. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's wrestling.
Yeah, I get it, and it's just I can connect with it because I'm a very easygoing guy, but the people I like in general too, I've always been very blunt with, and I always tell people, well, if I like you, I'm going to be very honest with you and straight
Yeah.
to the point. I don't know if it's an ADD thing too, maybe, but it's like like you asked, but yeah, it's interesting. So how many? This is one other thing I want to ask you too. Like injuries. How many injuries have you had now in this
Oh, dude, I can't even keep track.
career?
I have a pretty consistent misaligned pelvis
Mm,
from my time at IWA, where Ian's grand idea was, hey, maybe you should miss your dives every match. And it all stemmed from the ladder match at the 500 show, where I literally did a dive and there was 6 people on the outside. And as I dove, it was, and I just hit the ground. Like, it was bad enough that the people that rode with me, like my friends that were in the crowd, after like 3 minutes, got up and came over and checked on me because I was still laying on the ground.
goodness.
It's on Botchamania. Like, you can see it. Eddie Kingston's on commentary. He just loses his shit.
Mm,
I mean, it's funny. I watch it now. I think it's hilarious. But the fact that I actually like agreed to go along with that was just showing how dumb I was, you know, 13, 14 years ago. So like my pelvis is pretty messed up, which causes pain in my lower back. Um, and then I've got a muscle. Like, if I bump wrong, I've got a muscle on my right side that will like, it'll spasm. And sometimes I'll just walk and my right leg will just stop working.
mm.
That only happens after I wrestle typically. Um, I've cracked ribs, I've broken toes. Um, I've been lucky. I haven't had like anything really serious. Back in 2011, I was supposed to have both of my knees and both of my shoulders repaired surgically, but I rehabbed them on my own, and thank God I figured that out on my own because nobody wants to deal with $60,000 in surgical bills and rehab time. So, yeah, like outside of that, I've gotten pretty lucky. So,
Mm. Well, minus injuries, what would you say for you personally? Was some of the more difficult aspects of pro wrestling, promo, in ring, character? I'm just curious. What was you say was your biggest challenge?
I don't like politicking.
Oh, okay.
I've just now kind of gotten into it
Hmm.
because I've been protecting all my students. And then at the same time, me wrestling as long as I have, there's just things where I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't politic when I was younger. So like, I didn't kiss ass, which a lot of people tell me is probably why, like, I've kind of just stayed in this black hole of the Midwest that I'm in right here. Cause like we're in a really weird spot. Like, doing anything of value is hours away from us. And, people like really forget, even though Kansas City used to have such a rich history with wrestling, same thing with Omaha. Like, it's not on you look at like any of like the super indies or like anywhere that's spotlighted, and like we're just never mentioned. And it's crazy because we have so many really good guys in Omaha and in the Kansas City area. So
Yeah.
it's frustrating. Uh, but outside of that, all the other aspects of wrestling, physically performing, promos, I don't want to say I'm great at it, but like I've never had a problem with any of it. Um, you know, I've done acting stuff and things like that, and talking is just natural to me. They always talk about turning your wrestling character, or being your wrestling characters yourself turned up to 11. I mean, you get me in the right mood, and I'll cut promos on a 3-hour car ride the whole way there, and you just got to keep me in the right mindset. But
That I'm curious now. When you said Midwest, and that is interesting because um, you do tend to think like bigger shows, bigger areas, Northeast.
mhm.
So, like in your opinion, is that just a natural kind of thing? Like maybe not even just a pro wrestling, but we'll use pro wrestling. Like if you find two people, let's just say equal talent, charisma, and all that.
Mhm.
If you're in New York or Philly you got a better chance of probably being discovered.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be like who you're working for.
Right.
You know, I kind of have an idea of like the places that people watch,
Mm,
and because I know people, I know what they're telling me that they're looking at. Um, but I also know at the same time, like a lot of the people that are making the decisions are so far behind the times, like it's ridiculous. And so, I mean, wrestling is always it's always been who you know, and very much right place, right time.
mhm.
Very much so. Hard work and talent will stand out, but you just it's got to be in the right place. And
Yeah.
like I'm not a guy that at my level and time that I've been in, like I'm not going to drive 20 hours across the country for $50. Like I got a life. I own a house. I have a dog. Like I gotta. I'm not gonna be like, oh hey, mom and dad, take my dog. I'm gonna be gone for 4 days because I'm gonna spend 20 hours fucking driving across the country. Like I've had some people be like, well, you're just not passionate about it. Like no, like I'm not a fucking idiot.
Mm.
So I'm not saying that guys that do that are idiots. It's just for me, that's a stupid move.
And timing too. Like
Yeah,
at this point in your life, it's really not probably worth it to do
it's
that.
not
Like,
convenient.
yeah.
Like I'm in a area right now where like my window for having a performance contract is very small. I could probably get away with 3, 4, maybe 5 years of still performing at the level I'm at. Um, I would rather be like a producer or an agent. Like,
Mm.
if there's one thing that I'll toot my own horn about, I'm really good at putting things together, making things make sense. Like, I'm a big why guy. So, like, when people come to me and they're like, "Well, we're going to do this," and I'm like, "Well, why? Well, what do you mean why? Well, why? It doesn't make any sense." And so I always tell people, if you have a really stupid idea, if you can make me believe and make it make sense, then I'll say, okay, do it. But like, I still am under the idea and the assumption that what we're doing out there should make sense.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we all know wrestling is wrestling, but it doesn't mean we have to just completely fucking bury the whole thing. Like, we should be able to, like, people in the crowd should be able to be like, oh, okay, well, that guy couldn't do that because this happened earlier and things like that. So I'm a big stickler about that. And maybe I'm too set in my ways, but
I get it. I mean, I'm product of I was born in '76, but product of the '80s and stuff like that. And
yeah,
over again, wrestling, like I really enjoy guys like Brian Danielson right now or Kingston,
yeah,
guys that kind of lay it in.
amazing.
It's like, oh shit, that, and you're like, especially when you start. Since the last 10, 11 years, I've really gotten into MMA too. So when you start watching MMA, it kind of makes it a little different for you, right? So now you want
Yep,
to definitely see things that make sense.
yep, yep. Like I hate, like my guys always tell me, like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, that, and the other, and well, yeah, we're gonna do this hockey fight. Well, are you actually gonna punch that motherfucker in the face? Because if you're not doing it like Takayama and Fry from Pride, then you should just not be doing it. Oh well, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens do it. I still don't think it looks good. Like I don't care if they're doing it on TV. I think it looks fucking terrible.
Mhm.
So it's just man, just drives me nuts.
Yeah, there's something. Actually, a friend of mine, Scott, huge wrestling fan, goes to a lot of indie shows, a lot too. He hates that spot. He always talks about it.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Pin punch in the corner.
my big pet peeve for me personally, like now at this age, there can be a lot of great matches, and I don't care. Like it can be AEW, NXT, independents too. I would see it more on that, and I love a lot of that stuff. But sometimes it depends on the match. Not every match, but there's a reliant on over false finishes. Like it's a false finish.
Oh, I hate it.
And
Oh
I'm
god,
like,
I
now
hate
I
it.
feel tired at some point. I'm like, oh,
I
like,
hate it.
yeah.
You put me out there with a guy like we got a guy out in the KC area called is Niles Plunk. Planquet, that's like his shtick. He's like the wine connoisseur, and him and I did a festival show for Steel Domain Wrestling in Minneapolis in August. It was August of this year. Yeah, um, and we literally went 8 minutes. We would come back to a finish, and there was 1,200 people that just exploded. Like why do you want to do 12 false finishes to pop 35 people in the crowd or run the risk of them just being like, when you can get your babyface over and he does a high cross body off the top rope and pins the guy after the comeback and everybody explodes. Just handing me beers as I'm leaving. I'm just like, this is perfect. Thank you so much. Yes. Is that, you know what I mean? Like, I want to get a guy, because guys think that they have that mentality of, A, we have to always steal the show. No, you need to work your place on the card. And B, you never know who could be watching. Look, I can promise you that Joe Schmo from Big TV Company is not going to be watching Piddly Podunk's show here. Like, and I can tell you right now, those people in those companies aren't going to be like, oh, well, that guy just did 8 false finishes and then they finished with a roll up. We got to fucking hire him. That shit isn't happening. People always are like, well, you know, what should I do? What should I work on? I'm like, basics will get you hired. Basics will keep you safe. Basics will let you have good matches. And basics will get you hired.
Yeah.
People don't believe me, but whatever.
That's interesting. Now, you said Steel Domain. Who runs that promotion? If you don't mind me asking.
I believe there's a group of guys up there that have a hand in it, but my guy up there that I talk is Ed Hellier.
Okay.
From what I understand, it's the old promotion that Ace Steel started years ago.
That's what I was wondering. We had him on the show before, and I was wondering if.
Oh God, I love Ace.
He's great. Yeah.
Oh, he's my favorite. I finally got to wrestle him like 2018, 2019. It was right there. 2019. I finally got to wrestle him, and guys, like, that was a bucket list match for me. That was. He's so good, man. Like, I still, I'll have matches and I'll send them to him and just be like, yo, when you get a minute, you watch that. So I get a lot of feedback from him when I can, and it's so appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy that's is he training down in NXT right now?
Yeah, he's a coach.
Yeah. We got him like in between, and then he ended up being back.
Yeah. When he left. Yeah.
Right. So.
We were. I was working on getting him up here to come up and wrestle and do a seminar and everything, and it never panned out, so I was really disappointed. But you never know. Him and I have kind of chatted about some things. So
he's a good straight up dude. Like,
yeah, absolutely, no bullshit.
Yeah. I liked him a lot. And he got Harley race stories too, so it's always cool.
God, yeah.
But so I'll tell you what. Keep John for about a half hour. What would be some stuff? Well, actually, before I ask you about your goals, before I ask promotion, what are some of your goals? What do you got? What you want to do in the next year or two right
now? I mean, honestly, I've kind of started putting my winding down bucket list together. Which, if you know, if there's not like a national contract on the table, you know, some point within the next year or two, then you know, I get this bucket list checked off, and I could probably just walk away and be okay. But I've had trips set up to Japan for like 2 or 3 different times now, and they've fallen through. So getting to Japan is like extremely high on my list. I wrestled in Europe back in 2011. I'd really like to go back there because I loved it over there. Mexico and Canada. Seeing as I live like 10 hours from Canada, I've just never pursued wrestling up there. But I've made some contacts up there, and some guys are like, we want to bring you and a group of your guys in. So I was like, okay, well, let's get it figured out. I've got some pretty, like, you know, everybody makes like their list of list of matches. My list is pretty narrow. Like, off the top of my head, I would love to wrestle Tyson Dux. He's the Canadian me, and I love it. I'm the American him, maybe, because he's older than me. So, I mean, like, off the top of my head, if somebody's like, well, who do you want to wrestle? Like, that'd be him. I'd really like to wrestle Davey Richards again. I'm working on a few other ones. Alex Shelley. I've never wrestled Alex Shelley. So we're working on those. I'm actually working on a lot of those for Magnum. So I was like, you know, what's the easiest way to cross stuff like that off my bucket list? Then book it myself. So
is there any besides, like, obviously AEW and WWE, is there any companies out there that you look at and go, oh, what am, you know, at this point?
No.
I mean,
honestly, my focus is getting paid so I
Sure.
can pay my bills. And the exposure part's good. So I look at a few places like that
Right.
when it comes to like taking bookings. So, but it would be cool to knock off some of those bigger ones off my list. I'd really like to work. I actually really like to work for MLW.
Yeah.
I really like the product MLW is putting out
Same.
there right now.
I thought that. I wonder if you were going to say that.
Yeah,
And I'm an MLW guy. That's why I was curious.
yeah, and I never used to be
Mhm.
until relatively recently when I really started watching what they were doing.
Mhm.
But I've always been a fan of guys like T.J. Perkins,
Yeah.
and Davey, and there's some people that'll laugh when I say this, but like I was a huge Teddy Hart guy.
Okay. Yeah. I
Like
get
that dude's a wild one, but I tell you what, like, okay, when it comes to like getting people to talk about wrestling,
Mhm.
Teddy Hart did a good job of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've gone back and I've watched their stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to get out there and do something with them, even if it's a one off. I see they're kind of putting out their free agent talent thing that they're going to start bringing people in and stuff. So, who knows? I don't really know if I know anybody out there and see if I can call in any favors, but I definitely would be a fit there. I mean,
Mhm.
MLW is hands down like my preferred style. But getting to do cool stuff. AEW would be great, but
Sure.
once everything's all said and done, like I said, I wouldn't mind just being a producer or an agent somewhere. I
There's,
like training guys too.
yeah, I get that. I was going to say, you seem like you almost prefer training at this point.
Uh, so
Maybe.
like this is gonna sound really bad, but I'm like one of those people that I don't think everybody belongs in wrestling.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like I ran a school for a year and a half, and in that year and a half, like I got 3 quality guys out of it, and they
Mhm.
were all former athletes.
Yeah.
All of my other standout trainees, even from before then, all of them but one have been like athletes. All of them but two have been athletes.
Mm.
So, um, if I'm given the opportunity to train people that are serious, the diet, that'll work out, that'll put the time in, that don't mind getting yelled at, because like I train like a football coach. Like I will make you fucking grind it until you get it. And you know, give me the opportunity to train some like quality people, and I have a feeling I could very much produce some good talent for, especially for TV, because that's been my mindset for the last few years is working and training for TV, because that's TV and streaming is where everything's at now. So working cameras, doing things properly, things like that. So that'd be cool, be fun.
And that should be your end game, I would imagine, if you're getting into the business at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at this, if you're getting, I'm not a. I just want to be a weekend warrior guy. I don't want to invest my time there. Like, you take it seriously, and if you get there and you just want to be a weekend warrior, fine, but you can't train like that because it's not gonna fly. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I saw, like, I'm 44 years old. I have asthma and stuff like that. And someone just like, I see these guys sometimes that are even like worse off. And like, why are you in this? That's a horrible idea. And they're like 40 something years old and trying to start their career. And they're not like they're not like in immaculate shape or anything either. Like, they're just
yeah,
regular guys. And I'm like, oh, this is not so good idea.
I'm pretty positive. I had a guy in my last class that was like 46 or 48. And then, like, in that same class, I had 3 people dislocate their shoulder
Mm.
on a roll.
Oh,
Fuck. It's like I don't want to be mean, but like, yeah, it's not gonna happen.
right. I would appreciate that honesty. I mean, God, if you're looking to train, like you're making money. So if you're telling them this ain't for you, then obviously, like I would listen to that and go, okay, you might have something here.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm the asshole.
Yeah.
I'm the
Well,
asshole.
it's funny too. And I'll keep like you talked about Teddy Hart and stuff like that. And there's a big thing now, I think, where people, especially in the online community, like we can't separate almost. Like you can't just say Teddy Hart's a great wrestler. Somebody's gonna like, oh, you hear what he said? Like, well, no, he didn't tell you that everything Teddy ever did was like the greatest idea in the world. He's just saying the guy knows his shit about wrestling. And it's like, Yeah, and yeah, I watch that sometimes, and I'm like, all right, guys, let's calm down. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But so yeah, what do you got coming up? Anything you want to promote? Social media? Hit it up.
Well, I don't. I'm back on Twitter. I hate Twitter.
Yeah, I get it.
I'll peruse Twitter very, very little. But the thing is if you interact with me, I will interact with you back. But I don't pander to fans. Like if you say something stupid, I will
Mhm.
tell you that you said something stupid. Hence, I've got screenshots of people that were complaining about my name being spelled on AEW. I was like, "You're a fucking cuck, bro. Like, shut up. Like, this is stupid. Like, why would it hurt you to spell it Jason? Jason? Yeah, it would. Your name's fucking Dakota Robert or something. Like, the kid's name was like Dakota Patrick. Like, well, I'm not named after two terrible states, and I don't have a first name for a last name. Like, so if you're gonna come at me on Twitter, please bring the fire. I will absolutely let you know if you got me because that's just how I operate. But I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Don't friend request me if you're gonna send me stupid messages or like I promote my stuff on both of those.
Oh man.
When I'm tagged. You can follow. I would prefer if you just go follow Magnum Wrestling. It's at Magnum Wrestling. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, which we're going to start doing a lot more with Twitch this coming next year because we've been on hiatus. But when does this go up? Is this live or is this?
No. This will go up. So I think December. I would say December 11th.
Oh, cool, fine. Then
Yeah,
we actually tomorrow, which is like Wednesday the 24th, we announce our return date because we went through a complete rebrand, like all new title belts done, all new production stuff, new logo, went from Magnum Pro to Magnum Wrestling, and so we'll announce our return date, which is in end of January tomorrow. So follow Magnum. Get on if you're on IWTV, watch our shows. You can definitely see a steady progression of, hey, we're having too much fun. Okay, now we're taking it serious. We're still having fun. Now we're getting a little more serious. Like, it was a good steady progression of things. And the shows are good. They're entertaining. I book and run wrestling shows for party people. Wrestling fans just seem to enjoy it. But yeah, definitely. We're on Patreon too. We do some exclusive stuff for Patreon people. You can join our Patreon for as little as $5. You'll get match announcements, talent announcements early, access to tickets early. We've got an archive of like back catalog matches. So we opened the wrestling school right when the pandemic started.
Okay.
And so there was no wrestling. So like we would all just meet there on a Saturday and just record a bunch of wrestling. So we definitely broke quite a few. Well, they weren't really laws at that time, anyways. They're still not, but we definitely were like skating on thin ice there. So we've got a back catalog, a ton of stuff, and it was mainly for the students to get work and understand working for cameras and things like that. So, and then we just drink beer all day. So I would get really drunk and bury them on commentary. So bad. I feel bad for it now, but they always came back to me like, no, it was great because like you just basically live critiqued my match. And so I just go back and listen to what you're saying and then I get it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I still felt like a huge asshole.
At least I got some out of it though.
Yeah, it's whole back catalog of stuff there. We actually went back and re-released like all of our early shows from 2011 to our patrons. So we're steadily getting more content back out there and we'll start having exclusive merchandise and stuff there. So if people got $5 they can throw away every month, hit up our Patreon because that's appreciated. Every penny we get from Patreon goes back into the company. I don't take any of that. It's all to upgrade our production, pay our production crew to do cool new stuff, buy lights, setups, all that stuff. So yeah, that's really about it. You can follow the Yellow Dog. You can watch me and the Yellow Dog yell at each other back and forth on Twitter. He's on Twitter and Instagram at Charismatic K9. It's actually K and then the number 9. So give him a follow and watch him be nice and then watch me yell at him. the people that are in the know are like, why do you do this? I'm just like, I get bored at the gym in between sets. So I'll carry on a conversation with myself for no reason. I did it just today. So bury myself on one and then talk shit from the other. It's just whatever.
Yeah, it's got to be fun when people get into it, though.
Yeah, like, I get people that'll text me and be like, Jesus, like, why? Like, why would you do that? So, yeah, definitely. You can interact with me. Like I said, I interact back. This is my job. So, social media is part of my job.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you on that.
I hate it. I hate it. If I didn't run a wrestling company, promoters could text me or email me. Like, I would not do social media at all. If I didn't have to do it, I would.
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
That's why I always hoped I'd get a TV contract, so I could just be like, I don't have to do this now, and then I would never have to do it. So, oh well.
I get it. All right. Well, Jaysin, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on, man. We'll do it again, maybe.
No problem. Anytime.